right.
I was listening to Mario Murillo on Flashpoint with Gene Bailey, and they're having, what he did is he brought all the churches together, 900 and some pastors.
In what area?
In California.
Right.
And, you know, they were commanded to close their churches out there. Now, there are those who didn't. Some went to jail, but they got out, and they still stayed open. And so he's having a tent revival out there. He's been having tent revivals. People are getting saved like crazy. But this next Sunday, all these pastors have said they're going to go open their churches. It doesn't matter because they are essential to the people, and they're not going to wear the masks. They're going to open the church.
Right.
And they were so excited. And you should have heard the roar. The roar was so loud, if you could ever hear what he said. I wish I could have that little clip and show the people, because they were just so loud. And he says, pastors are being fined and going to jail. Open your church. And then he says, he pulled them all together. He said, the devil told you to shut down your church. Get rid of the mask and reopen the church. California is going to come to Christ. And he said it's coming back to Christ.
I've heard actually prophecies about California turning and being a godly area, which, I mean, it has such this huge demonic stronghold over California.
Well, when you said that, I think it's Sunday night, April the 18th. They are pulling down the strongholds over California.
That's right.
So, what's the abbreviation for California?
I don't know.
C-A-L. F.
F, yeah.
Calf.
Yeah.
Calf. It's called the Golden State.
The Golden Calf.
It's called the Golden State.
The Golden State.
The Golden Calf.
The Golden Calf.
And of course, they're being attacked the hardest because what was our reading last week? Our reading last week was the Golden Calf. The sin, everything that happened. 40 days separated from Moses and separated from the presence of God is all it takes to turn people away. What was the reading the week before? Trump said 15 days to slow the spread. It was the Golden Calf. Churches on their own before.
When he's talking about reading, you're talking about the Parshas.
Again, reading the Parshas. Every week, the Jewish people read a specific portion of the Bible. Wow. And it's ordained, and that's what they teach. That's why they're in unison. That's why everything works and functions for them the way that it does.
Well, go back and show them where it actually is ordained, because when Jesus spoke out of it, he was speaking out of the...
So very well, when Jesus even practiced this, when they go to the synagogues, there's specific scriptures that are read each week. They read what's called the Torah and the Haftorah, which is the prophets. And so they'll read the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, the ones that Moses written, and then they'll read the prophetic books that are there. When Jesus went into the synagogue and he read from Isaiah and said exactly who he was, that I've come to heal the brokenhearted, to save the sick, all the different things, that was the reading that week. And then he said, this is why they got offended, and this has just been fulfilled today in your ears and in your eyes. It's fulfilled. That blew their minds. That's what made them upset, because he didn't just pick anything to read. He read what the reading was for that day, the Parsha reading. And so it's been ordained from the foundation of the Bible. They will go through and they'll read, and this is how they stay connected to their history. They will go in and share what happens, when it happens, and they read it in a specific order and time. And what I've noticed for the past year, everything that's being read in the Parshas, in the Jewish text readings that they read, which is our Bible, just reading it in the proper order, it is telling us exactly what is currently happening, what is about to happen, or what just happened, so that we know how to line our lives up and make the proper decision to move forward in the right way. So, March 15th of last year, Trump said 15 days to slow the spread. The reading the week prior to that was the Golden Calf. And what do we learn of the Golden Calf? All it takes is 40 days of separation from the leadership and the relationship with God for people to walk away, okay? 40 days is all it took. God told us that before the 15 days of spread. But what did the churches do on their own before it was even mandated? They began to close their churches of their own free will. So God told us, in 40 days, you're going to watch the church drop. In 40 days, you're going to see this happen. So here we are. We get into it. 40 days later, we're still trying to slow the spread. We have a first Passover that's just like the original Passover, except for it's not two nations that are locked up in their homes. It's now the entire world locked up in their homes. They take on a greater meaning.
And let me add this in there. So since we talked about that, he talks about 40 days, right, to turn away from God. Well, this is, Barna has done a study on different groups of people. Since the church shut down, boomers, 26% stopped attending church, 11% switched churches, 40% stayed at the same church. Your Gen X, 35% stopped attending church, 17% switched church, 31% stayed at the same church. Millennials, this is scary, 50% stopped attending church, 8% switched church, 30% stayed at the same church. Go on. Wanted to bring that point in there.
So that's the point. All it takes is 40 days to separate us from God. 40 days of the church being closed, 40 days of not having leadership speaking into our lives and showing us the way, showing us the light of the world, showing us the bread of light, showing us the Word of God. That's all it takes to turn us away. And so here we are again. Last week was the reading of the same reading that happened at the 15 days to slow the spread. We're almost 1 year away. Actually, it's a week, it's 1 week less from 1 year away from 15 days to slow the spread. Then the next reading, which is actually this week's reading, talks about a Sabbath during the time in which the reading was during the time everyone was at home. You will have a Sabbath and do no ordinary work. No one is working when they're home for 15 days. You're not doing your ordinary work.
No.
But then the reading goes into describing how you would build the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the meeting place to meet with God is exactly what the reading is this week. It's exactly what the reading was the week during the first week of the 15 days to slow the spread. What did everybody do? Everyone started home improvement projects. They were building their own home and not God's home. Our focus was wrong. We were not in the proper position where we're supposed to be. Here we are 1 year later, and what are we doing? We're reading about the Sabbath. Now, what is the Sabbath? It very clearly tells us the Sabbath is the sign of the covenant that we have with the Father God. There's two signs of the covenant. The first is circumcision for every male that has accepted Jesus as Lord and Savior, or every Jewish man is to be circumcised as a sign of the covenant. That's for the head of the household. But the entire household has a covenant called the Sabbath. No one sees your circumcision.
Rest.
That's a private matter. It's a private situation. No one sees that covenant. But everyone sees the visual covenant of you getting the rest the Lord has commanded you to have each week. It's the sign of my promises that I'll supply and take care of everything you need of. If you give me 1 day, I'll take care of the other 6.
I think Chick-fil-A is the best example of that. They shut on Sundays. They've always been closed on Sundays, and they are so prosperous.
Well, same thing with Hobby Lobby.
Yes, Hobby Lobby too. They closed on Sundays.
So, now whether it's Friday to Saturday or it's Sunday, whatever it is, depending on, Jewish people do it Saturday, Friday and into Saturday. Christians do it Sunday. I believe that's where it says that he's done away with the law, the rigidness of it. We have the freedom to choose which way to honor it, however we decide. So he's work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. So whatever he puts in there. But everyone should be doing some form of Sabbath. Not your everyday, traditional, ordinary work.
Right.
And where they judge that by in the Jewish text is there's 39 things or 39 acts that actually happened in the building of the Mishkan, the building of the tabernacle. You can't dye fabric. They would dye the fabric and prepare it for it. You can't weave the fabric to make the tent curtain. You can't mold anything in any fashion form. This is what they're considered ordinary work. It breaks down into the 39 categories, and that's where they then expand out into all the different Levitical law that they say you can't do this, all the way to the point where you can't push the button in the elevator, you can't flip the light switch on.
Yeah, I know.
All the way till it gets to ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's the law that Jesus came and done away with.
Yes.
He done away with the ridiculousness.
Yes.
But he says all the laws line up into two things. Love God with your whole heart, mind, soul, body, and everything that you are, and love your neighbor as yourself. If you do those two things, all the 10 Commandments fall under those two things. loving God properly, loving man properly. If you do those two things, you won't sin in any fashion or form. And then all the other 613 laws that are in the Bible, not the ones that the Levites added to it, Levitical law, but the actual law that he put in there, all fall under those first 10, which all fall unto those 2 that Jesus gave us. Love God with all your heart, mind, body, soul, everything that is you, and love your neighbor as yourself. And then who is your neighbor? Every single human being on this planet.
Yeah.
That is your neighbor. That is who you love with your heart, and treat them the way you would treat yourself. So that's what we're supposed to do. It all falls into those 2.
Now go back to that golden calf. I never got that. The California. It's
called the Golden State, right? That's its name. That's his name. And the abbreviation for California is CALF, calf. So why does it not make sense to us that they're attacked the hardest? Well, why does it not make sense to us? It's the most liberal of all states, followed by New York. You have California and New York, the 2 most liberal states, one on the east, one on the west. Okay? They're the most liberal states. In its name, abbreviation is calf. It's called the Golden State. It's where all the gold was, where the 49ers went. They went and took all the gold and the gold rush and all the different things. It's called the Golden State. It's the golden calf. It's the representation. So, of course, they're going to go through more hard times than any other state in the nation because it's in their name.
Wow. Well, they're not going to change the name, but they're going to change what's happening.
Well, what happened after the golden calf moment, okay? The golden calf moment came down. Moses destroyed it, burned it, ground it into powder, put it in the water, and made the people drink of their sin. Yeah. He made them ingest it. And then he called and says, whoever's with me, go kill brother or sister, daughter, son, whatever it is, father, whatever, go and kill. And so 3,000 people were killed that day, and the only people that stood with Moses were the Levites. So if you go back to the original plan and the original purpose, God had chosen the firstborn of every single family to be the holy priesthood, the firstborn.
It can't just be the Levites.
The original plan was to be the firstborn. But because of the sin and the fact they were the only ones that stood up and had a righteous anger. And we go back and we look at Levi.
Look at Aaron. Levi built the calf.
He's the one that built it because of the people. But the Levites were the only ones that stood up and killed their brothers. They're the only ones that stood up with him, which set them apart, and God chose them from that moment forward and made them the priesthood.
But, okay,
if
you don't like it, go argue it with Perry, because Perry's the one that taught it to me.
I know.
There you go. That's one way to be in her quiet.
Okay, but what I'm asking is, how did all the other tribes, like Joshua was part of the tribe of Benjamin, I mean, all that happened afterwards, all the tribes.
Those are the rabbis, but they're not the priests. Anyone can be a rabbi. You can be Paul was a Benjamite, wasn't he? He was not a Levite. He did not do the priestly responsibility, but he could still teach. So rabbis are not priests. Priests are not rabbis. Doesn't mean that that a priest can't teach, but they're there to hold a specific position, to stand in the gap for the people. That's their purpose. They stood in the gap at that particular point in time. They slaughtered the evil, those that called for a false god.
Yeah.
Okay? And so because of that, God elevated them of all the families. They're not allowed to have property.
Yeah, I understand the Levites. I just didn't understand the saying that everybody else was killed but the Levites.
No, the Levites were the only tribe that stood with Moses, and they were the only ones that did the killing. It's very clear. You can go in there and read it. They're the only ones that said that this is 100% wrong, and they did something about it. They're the only tribe. All right? They're the only ones that took up arms. And because of that, a holy anger, God blessed them and elevated them and put them in the priesthood.
Yep, wow.
But the original plan, because God has a perfect will and he has a permissive will.
Yes.
His perfect will was that every firstborn male be a priest unto the Lord. That was the perfect plan. That was the perfect plan. But he wasn't able to do that. Now, Jesus comes from the tribe of Judah, and he is the perfect priest. He is priest, he is man, he is the whole thing. He restored it back to us where we all have that ability to come before him and be a king and a priest. Every man has that opportunity now. Every person has that now. But in the Old Testament, it was for everyone, the firstborn of each family, but because of the golden calf sin, it cost all the other tribes in the nation and only elevated one until Jesus came and put us back in right standing. So now everyone has the opportunity.
But the tribes still existed. They didn't. You said only the Levites existed. So the tribes
In the priesthood. They're the only ones that were allowed to go in the Holy of Holies.
I got it.
They are the ones that were elevated over all their brothers.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting, if you go back and you study, we have the situation with, let's see, it was Simeon and Levi. And Levi. Simeon and Levi, they actually go in and they murder a whole town because of the rape over their sister. And because of that, they are excluded from stuff when things happen. So when God chose the first king, okay, he chose the youngest. It says the last shall be first and the first shall be last, okay? So if we go back and we research what happened, he chose Benjamin, which was the last-born. Benjamin was who King Saul was, okay? But then when he failed, he went back to the beginning. Reuben was disqualified because he slept with his father's concubine. He dishonored his father. He did not go to Levite or to Simeon because of their anger and their rage. Destroyed an entire town. Their sins were too many. So who was next in line? Judah. So the first shall be last and the last shall be first, providing you didn't disqualify yourself.
Wow.
And so,
what a God. Man, he's just right on precise everything. And good for you to learn it and teach it. Now,
did you give up?
no, I'm trying to figure out. No. When he said everyone was killed, I thought, no, there's no way.
it was 3,000
were killed. And Levites were put up, but I was thinking he was just saying the Levites. And no, it can't be because we have Benjamin, Judah, and all the other tribes. So that's what I was.
But the original
I hope
plan.
I helped you all.
The original plan was the firstborn male of every family was to serve as a priest. That was the original plan. But they failed.
But the firstborn is still holy unto God.
Firstborn is holy unto God. It must be redeemed.
Yeah.
It has to be redeemed.
Yeah.
And so here we are.
So Michael's
We're redeemed.
holy unto
We're
God.
We're holy unto God. We are redeemed.
Yeah. I told my son that, Brian, he's holy unto God. You know, Brian fell 40 feet in a stone quarry and should have been dead. And I just cried out to God for him. And he lived.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the spleen isn't bleeding. People prayed, all these miracles that happened to him, not one broken bone, nothing. And he lived. And I said, you're the firstborn unto God. He took care of you.
That's right.
Isn't that something?
But I don't think it's just the firstborn. Guess
No,
what?
he
As
took care of
Christians,
you. He
we
took
pray and we believe God.
Yeah.
And we put a hedge of protection around our children. Daily.
She rolled out of a car.
A moving car.
And yes, I was turning the corner. I was going like this, and she opened the car door, and boom, out she went. A semi-truck was coming this way, and only God. She screamed on his brakes, and only God saved you. Steve drowned in a pool across the street, went in the pool, went after his ball, and he drowned. And God saved him. So the enemy tries to take out our children because he knows the plans God has for them. These are mighty plans, but look what he does.
That's right.
When you have a praying parent, you can make a difference.
And grandparent.
And grandparents, oh my goodness, yes. So back to where I was going. On Sunday night, April the 18th, he's asking the churches to take authority in their areas and bring down the strongholds in their areas.
Right.
And we do it with prayer and praise, and then attack the strongholds.
Right.
So I wanted to put that down there. And he said, I was telling you, tents are springing up all over.
Everywhere.
tents.
We were talking to Josh yesterday. Chris and I were gone. We were up at Anchor Ridge in North Carolina, Wilkesboro, North Carolina. And we were talking with him, and he's very good friends with Greg. Do you know his last name? He has a ministry in Nashville. And through COVID, he's never closed down. He's never stopped. And his church was a small church, could only hold a couple hundred. Do you know his church has exploded through COVID to where they're not even inside. He has a 900-person tent outside. And Locke, that's his last name, Greg Locke. 900-person tent outside, and now they can't even fit people in that, so they're having to expand that.
Well, Kent Christmas, his church is exploding. He said, Sunday, I'll have to figure out what to do with you all because I don't want you not to come because it's so squeezed in.
They have to do multiple services.
They have to do multiple services, plus they're going to expand.
Right.
So all these ministers that have stood
These churches that did not close, their churches are exploding. Literally.
Yeah.
And so, and they're getting bigger and bigger, and they're having to go out into tents, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love to see the tent revivals that are happening.
Well, let's look. This week we go to our reading. Our reading talked about the Sabbath, and we're supposed to celebrate it. And it says on the first day of the month of Nisan. So for those of you who don't understand the Jewish calendar, this Saturday is the first day of the month of Nisan. It's the time to what? Build the tent. What's all these churches doing? They're setting up these tents. And so it's the preparation for what God's doing, the tent of meeting, the holy place. Why do you think it's by chance that these tent meetings all throughout history have been so big and so... What did God start with? He started with a mishkan, a tabernacle, a tent of meeting. Doesn't have to be, super elaborate, but it's got to hold the presence, and the presence has to be there. And so now the presence has outgrown the building, and now it's coming back out into the tent. That's where it started.
I mean, you go back to Billy Sunday. He had millions of people that were saved through his ministry. They had them in tents.
Oral Roberts started
in tents. And guess what? These churches are going out in the streets in tents, and I love it.
And the revival has already hit. It's starting, and people get ready. Paul Tripp that was here, putting up his tent.
Tents. Yeah.
And just get ready. We're in revival.
Yeah.
If your church isn't seeing it, then ask yourself why.
Right.
Because we are in revival.
I'm telling you, this is an exciting time. It's not a time to look, God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but a love, power, and of sound mind. This is an exciting time. We are living in the last days. Guess what? The people of old wanted to live in this time.
Yeah.
This is an exciting time. This isn't a time to be afraid or get in fear. Well, look what's happening in our government. Look what's happening here. I'm telling you, God is still on the throne, and we are going to see more people come to the kingdom. But you need to be about the Father's business. The church, is time to wake up. It's not about prosperity.
No.
It's not about...
But He will prosper.
But you will prosper. Yes, that is a part of giving.
Because it
that
takes
is a part of
money
giving.
to put a tent
But
up.
guess what?
Okay.
Guess what? Well, it's about winning souls.
It is.
Because that is the only thing you're going to take to heaven.
He says they're running to the altar.
Oh, my goodness,
They're running to the altar.
This is an exciting time.
In Afghanistan, when we lost our president, he said the Afghanistan respected Donald Trump.
Yes.
And now they're all over. It's a mess. And now when they hold services, when Trump was there, they were able to hold. Now when they're holding services, they have to be held inside, and you can't give an altar call. So this guy that was on, what do you call it, Cross Point, he said, he just came from Afghanistan. They told him, now you cannot have a altar call because we have spies.
Yeah.
So you know what? He said, I have to give an altar call. So he gave an altar call. One of the first people that came running up to the altar was one of the spies.
One of the spies? I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so it's happening.
It's happening.
All over. And the Bible says, let me just say this verse, and then I want to let you say that. It says, let us consider one another, stir up in love and good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together. as the manner of some, but some people have not, they've forsaken. That's what he
Patricia
said.
Martin said, just spoke to a local minister having explosion in their parking lot.
Yeah. See, I mean, it's happening. What? It's happening, and it says, do so much more as you see the day approaching.
Right.
We're seeing the day approaching.
Right.
And it's time for revival, and it happens first in here, in each of us.
That's right.
Go ahead, what were you going to say?
Well, so this week's reading, if you're interested in it, it's the Parsha readings begin in the Old Testament. We finish off the book of Exodus from chapter 35 to chapter 40. We read the entire thing. It starts off with the sign of the covenant. The outward sign of the covenant is the Sabbath, the holy day. Then he says, go and command the people. This is the time we're in right now. Command the people to bring a righteous offering before the Lord. Okay, this was not an offering of blood. This wasn't a sheep or a goat or a bull. It wasn't a lamb, wasn't a dove, wasn't a pigeon. It wasn't a grain offering. It wasn't oil and wine, but this was a financial gift. This was gold, silver, fabric, dye, all the things necessary to construct the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the place of meeting. He called them now to bring in those things. Now, it's 1 week at the point in time, it's 2 weeks at the point in time they're building and finish the construction of this thing. 2 weeks later, they will celebrate Passover. So he's calling them to bring the financial things into the storehouse to build and create the holy place. Then he's saying, now bring your other offerings. Bring your sin offering, bring your guilt offering, bring your atonement offering, bring all the different offerings at this point in time. This is giving season. And do you ever notice how it always lines up right with tax season?
Wow.
Majority of people get something back in return. What do you do with what you get back in return? God does not have his festivals and seasons without giving you an opportunity. Even in our own man-made natural ways that we do things, as backwards as they are, God's even influenced them to the point where when it comes to his high holy days, that you have the opportunity to return what belongs to him.
The month of
to
Nisan.
bring it off the month of Nisan. So here we are. It's tax season. People are getting their tax returns back. We have until April 15th. Okay, this particular year, and Passover. We think of Passover as 1 day. Passover is not 1 day. Passover is a feast that consists of 7 days. Okay, will begin on the 27th of March. It will conclude on April 4th. That is the window in the time. This is the time we're bringing stuff in. Now you have the most holiest of the day, which is the first day, which is the time and season where they brought the Passover lamb. Okay, that's also the time in which Jesus was sacrificed. But it's also a 7-day period feast with no leavened bread, no sin in your life. Remove all the things out that don't belong in you for the next 7 days, and then watch what God does. And so it's giving time. It's giving time. And so it's really interesting that we got our building this past year, and here we are coming to Passover time, and the time this week where the tent would be putting together, and it's time to pay this off.
We got to pay this off.
It's time to pay this off. Now's the time and season.
To pay
God
this
waited
off.
for it to be paid off at this time as a sign.
Wow.
To show. He didn't do it sooner because it wasn't the proper time. And so I would like to give you an opportunity to be a part of what God's doing. It's very simple. There's a number that's on your screen right now. You can call that number first and foremost for prayer. We are here to pray with you, to encourage you, to remind you that God loves you, has a plan for you. You are not a mistake. It does not matter what the world has said about you, that you are a winner. You are an overcomer, that you can do all things through Christ Jesus who loves you, that he died, gave his life so that you could live life and live it abundant and have eternity with him. That number there is first and foremost for that. You can call it 24 hours a day and someone will pray with you and encourage you first and foremost. But it's there right now at this moment in time so you can call in and give a gift of support to Watchmen Broadcasting. In this window, this supernatural time and season set apart for such a time as this to pay off this building.
Wow.
To pay off what is, in essence, a Mishkan, a tent of meeting, a natural one here for this place to go out and spread what? The good news. We heard Josh say yesterday on his thing, the gospel, what gospel means is news that's too good to be true. That's what the gospel means. We are sharing the good news, the news that is too good to be true, that God loved you, He gave His life, He sacrificed Him to be with you. And in order to do that, for us to continue to do it, we have to have a home to broadcast and send out of. That's what this building does. And we're talking about the Mishkan, we're talking about the holy place. So I encourage you to call the number on your screen right now and give. You can also give online. If you don't have time to talk to someone on the phone and you're kind of more tech savvy and in a hurry, go to our website. It's very simple. It's WBPI.org/donate. It's just our call letters, Watchmen Broadcasting Production International, WBPI.org/donate. Go there and do a gift. If you'd like it to go towards the building, write building on there. Otherwise, it goes to pay the everyday bills. Because just because we're paying off a loan for a building doesn't mean that we don't still have a power bill. It doesn't mean that we still don't have a water bill or employee and staff to pay. So if you'd like it to go directly to that in this time and season, make sure that you notate it for that. Otherwise, it goes to the regular everyday bills. We also have available ways for you to give is via text to give. You can text the word give to 833-213-4116. And I'll give it to you one more time because they tell me I talk a little too fast sometimes. So it's 833-213-4116. You text the word give to that number the first time. It'll send you a link. You fill out your information. And from that time on, you just type in the dollar amount that you would like to give to watch broadcast. I encourage you to go and do that right now. The newest way we have to give is very simple. If you have ever shopped on eBay, most likely you have a PayPal account. All you have to do is go to your browser on your computer or your smartphone or however you get to the internet and type in paypal.me/WBPI, and you can give a gift that way as well. So we encourage you to go and do that. And then if you have our app, or if you don't have our app, you would like to go and get our app, very simply, if you go to your home, your Play Store or your App Store, depending on which device you have, and you look up Tithley, and that's spelled Tithley, you can download an app there, and it's the blue one. You'll download that blue app. Once you download it, you just type in our name, Watchmen Broadcasting, and Watchmen is spelled M-E-N, because there's more of us. It's not just me, Watchman. It's me, Tamara, and Dorothy, Watchmen, plural, Broadcasting. You type that in there and tell it to just follow yes, yes, yes to all the things that I ask you, and then you will have the app, and then you can also give via the app. There's a way for you to give on there as well. There's a giving button. You click that and you can give. And these are the different ways you can give to Watchmen Broadcasting. These are different ways you can stay in touch with Watchmen Broadcasting and see what we're doing and hear the good news, the gospel, the news that's too good to be true, that a God came, took the form of a man, sacrificed Himself.
But it is true.
It is true. It's very true that He gave His life that you could be saved for eternity and be with Him. So we want to encourage you to partner with us, and let's go ahead and get this loan paid off and dealt with now, in this window, in this time, to be an example, to show people exactly that God is speaking to us and revealing Himself to us through His Word.
You know, I've been saying this month we want to give them this money. And I didn't know. This is the time to give. Wow, that is so good, Chris.
Yes, ma'am.
I always like when Chris talks and tells us stuff. I'm telling you, it's amazing the information God gives him.